The empire of Izmir has long been a divided land, ruled by the mages, an elite group of magic users. The lowly commoners, those without magic, are little more than slaves. Izmir's young empress, Savina, wishes equality and prosperity for all. But the evil mage, Profion, has other intentions.
Welcome to Now Playing Podcast's Dungeons & Dragons Movie Retrospective Series.
Adventure, battle, glory beyond your wildest imagination.
Part of our board game movie retrospective series.
You want to play, do you?
Yeah, let's play.
We're gonna need a team.
Team? Who's gonna help us out?
Hosted by Arnie.
The fact that you see good in me makes me believe that there might just be some in there.
Justin.
See that there? I knew that boy had talent.
And Stuart.
You use magic. We are part of it.
But be warned, this episode will contain detailed plot spoilers and strong language.
There might be a loss of distinction between reality and fantasy, and possibly the loss of life in the process.
We hope you enjoy the show.
Let the journey begin.
Today we're discussing Dungeons & Dragons 3, The Book of Vile Darkness, starring Jack Durgis.
Nobody. Just stop. Ain't nobody in this. They all bad.
Eleanor Gex, Barry Aird, Lex Daniels, with Habit Nassib Nader.
Sure.
And Dominic Moffam, directed by Gerry Lively. This is the now playing co-host who has it in his heart to be terrible, at least towards this film, Arnie.
And Stuart.
You gambled with my life and lied to get me here. This is Justin.
Yeah, I know. We told you when you were stepping up for board games that it would be better than video games, but here we are at the Book of Vile Darkness, a movie that I felt was a movie of vile darkness because I had to go to some dark places to get it, that being a German eBayer with an old DVD.
Ooh.
Exactly. Welcome in. Like, is this going to be a real problem? Like, I'm watching Arnie's copy because this does not exist. You cannot get a media of any kind. It doesn't stream. You can't get a disc that plays in this region of the world. I had to go to Arnie's dark place.
And I don't like it when you go to my dark place.
Yeah, it's not my favorite place, but it is the place where you can find, I don't know, Die Sprechen de Deutsch? Dungeons & Dragons 3 Goldschlag or something or other.
It was Die Buchen de Vile Darknessen or something. I mean, it was...
It's not the whole movie, but yes. Apparently, this is something that we're only comfortable giving to Germans.
Well, to be fair, this movie did come out in the United States when it premiered as a sci-fi original movie in late 2012.
Oh, see, I thought that maybe it was even sci-fi was too good for it. Is this television length?
Yeah.
You'd have to have a lot of commercials.
It's 86 minutes, and usually you only get like 48 minutes out of an hour of TV programming before commercials. So yeah, I'm sure with a couple of paddings, and maybe they don't have to fast forward the credits at the end the way they do a lot of movies.
No, slow them down. Yeah, because the movie's only like 70 minutes with like 14 minutes of end credits.
Maybe they just played that intro on half speed. I mean, it was already 5.5 minutes of narration.
Yes. The interns made a doodle and they're like, this is our backstory. Yeah. All right. So you're telling me this aired on television in America?
Yeah, it was first released on DVD in the UK in August of 2012, then SyFy aired it in November 2012, and the distributor who had rights to this film ended up going bankrupt. So that's why it's not out there. It's not like they are hiding this under some rock intentionally, like it's a grand embarrassment. I mean, after last week, how much worse would it have to be? And last week's movie comes out in a 2-pack with the 2000 movie on Blu-ray. So this one, it's just a rights issue that made this become a myth. The company IM Global is no longer global as they went under.
Yeah, okay. Well, a rights issue, you say. A human's rights issue, maybe. Yeah. Gerry Lively is back. It should just be said that not much has changed in terms of who's behind the camera. If you liked the movie last week, and nobody did, you'll be excited to know that Gerry is in the director's seat and Brian Rudnick is still writing the script.
Yeah, that seems so weird that somebody's actually, like, attached to this property this deep into it, right? Like, this is how many, 7 years later from the last film? Why is somebody still involved in this at this point?
It really struck me as odd, too, that it's been 6 years since part 2 came out, and when they decide for part 3, they're like, well, we gotta have Gerry and Brian. We can't do it without Gerry and Brian.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't recognize anyone in this cast. I don't recognize this movie ever coming out. I don't recognize this, but we're here to discuss it anyway.
Yeah, in looking this over, only like 3 or 4 of the people in this movie even have Wikipedia pages. The guy who plays VMAC, the barbarian, is a stuntman who's done a lot of movies in the stunt department. The one who seems to have come out of this the best is Barry Aird, who plays Bez in this.
Phantom of the Opera?
Yeah, he has gone on to be in Morbius and in The Avengers, Age of Ultron.
Okay.
In such roles, in Morbius, he was newspaper salesman. And in Avengers Age of Ultron, he was Savokian police captain, so...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could have just told me these guys were all from a BBC production that only lasted like 2 weeks, and I would have been like, okay, yep, that sounds about right.
Community theater. I was thinking a lot about, I don't know when the last time you guys might have gone to your local playhouse, but yes, when your grocer and your neighbor decide that they're actors, you get stuff like this up on stage.
And Lex Daniel in this, who played Scythe, he actually is Harkonnen Commander in Dune Part 2. These are the 2 success stories out of this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's what I will say. While it is coming from the same creative force, it definitely has a new tone. I definitely felt like this has a different, you might call a vile darkness to it that I wasn't expecting. It is not the exact same experience that we were so confounded by a couple weeks ago. I mean, honestly, I feel like a spell was put on me. I didn't even know how to talk about Wrath of the Dragon God. But this one does go in, I will offer a different direction. This feels different from any Dungeons & Dragons movie we've gotten before.
I will agree with that. Just to preview my thoughts a little bit, I came into this expecting the absolute worst because, again, this movie is gone, forgotten, and the last Dungeons & Dragons film sucked really bad. I figure we're in the Name of the King 3 type situation here.
Yeah, that last one left such a bad taste in my mouth that I was definitely not looking forward to this, but not to give the whole game away, it's a completely different flavor this week, I'll say that.
All right, well, let's taste it. Arnie, let's go into your dark place. Give us the plot.
2,000 years ago, an evil sorcerer was dying, so he used his body to create the Book of Vile Darkness, a book so wretched that to read it would turn you evil. This book caused darkness to come over the kingdom of Kharkov. 800 years ago, a group of warriors rose up against the evil ones. They called themselves the Knights of the New Sun, and the god of light, Pelor, granted the knights amulets great power. The knights were victorious against evil, and the book was torn apart, its pieces in hiding, awaiting a time when it could be reassembled.
I just want to say all of this is in like a pencil sketch prologue that you just described. None of this is the actual movie. You just need to understand this in order to get the movie.
Now the Knights of the New Sun exist as an order, but they've lost their devotion, and Pelor's powers were taken away from them. We meet our paladin, Grayson, who's being inducted into the order and is gravely disappointed when Pelor does not grant him the magical powers of old. Soon, a group of barbarians attack the knights. Most knights are killed, but Grayson's father, who is also a Knight of the New Sun, is kidnapped, and Grayson is left unconscious. When he comes to, Grayson sets about trying to rescue his father. He joins a group of bandits who work for the barbarians. That group is led by sorceress Accordia, assassin Seath, barbarian VMAC, and vermin lord Bez. The group is trying to find a magic horn that will lead them to the lost cover of the book. That horn is hidden in a dragon's lair. The group try to sneak past the dragon, but it attacks. Grayson kills the dragon and they retrieve the horn. This causes Accordia to fall for the young knight and they make love. Grayson then poisons VMAC. Seath tries to steal the horn, but he is killed by Bez. The 3 remaining adventurers proceed to use the horn and get the cover of the book, but Bez is stabbed through the chest in the encounter. Accordia and Grayson take the book cover to her boss, Lord Shathrax. They find Shathrax in the same compound as where Grayson's father is being kept and tortured. Grayson frees his father, but there seems to be no escape from the fortress. Grayson's father suggests they kill themselves to stop being tortured, but Grayson refuses to give up hope. This act of optimism grants him the magical powers from the light god Pelor. Grayson defeats Shathrax and his minions. In the aftermath, Accordia tries to convince Grayson to go with her, but he decides to remain a pure, chaste knight as credits roll.
Yeah, and as they start, we do get probably about 6 minutes of this very short movie is dedicated to an idea. Arnie, I think you brought it up. I think you actually named, I don't remember what the work was, but I remember you evoking Clive Barker and thinking about a book made of skin for pages, blood for ink, and bone for a cover. Someone has read that Clive Barker book as well. This is definitely a Clive Barker tale.
The Necronomicon, right?
Well, I was definitely thinking about the books of blood, with the blood being ink and the skin being pages and all of that. But if they were ripping off Clive Barker, they did it fast, because this is actually from D&D Mythos, from a book that was published in 1986. Now, I know Clive Barker's books of blood were, 84, 85 in the UK, so they'd have to have really worked fast. I think this is more like Justin called out, the Necronomicon. They're probably looking at Evil Dead 2 when they're creating their Book of Vile Darkness for D&D.
Yeah, again, I'm not really here to say who ripped off who. Perhaps Clive Barker was playing D&D and said, this is my next opus. I'm here to say that this D&D movie feels like Clive Barker would direct it. There's a kinkiness, there's a bondage S&M quality, there's a savagery to all of the players, a moral ambiguity / evilness that you just can't find in any other of these campaigns that we've been on. They say that this darkness is spread by this book and that these good guys rose up, but I don't feel like there's that many good guys here.
Yeah, this opening, as you mentioned, of pencil sketches and things going on here is really extended. You know, whenever we start with a data dump voiceover, and I feel like every Dungeons & Dragons film has done this, most fantasy films probably do this. I mean, even the Star Wars films have their crawl, but I'm always trying to write down every word of this lore from the background because we're going to analyze it. And so I'm writing down, 2,000 years ago, a sorcerer neared the end of his mortal days and was dismayed. Consumed with hatred for all things living, he sold his soul to the demon lords of the abyss so his soul would survive after his body perished. And I'm like, okay, interesting. In an excruciating ritual, his skin was flayed, his bones hammered, his diseased blood written into a... All right, get on with it. This thing goes on and on. I literally put in my notes, fuck, how long is this prologue? And then it continued. The ink was discovered and destroyed. It's like, holy shit. How long is this damn thing anyway? I thought we were getting a little data dump of background that we needed for the story. We're getting basically an entire movie in the first 10 minutes.
Question about that. I'll just go ahead and call it out. I felt like this movie was incredibly short. I felt like the quest that we go on is truncated in a weird way, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Do you think that they weren't able to film the whole movie? All the other Dungeons & Dragons movies were an hour 45. It feels like 25 minutes of movie. I'm not asking for it. I'm grateful for the brevity, but don't you feel like there are chunks of story that are just gone?
Yeah, it feels like maybe there's a quest or two that they weren't able to film, right? Like, I would say that, you know, they need to establish their characters more, but there's plenty of just standing around talking scenes, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the end felt especially truncated to me, also.
Yes. Oh, God, yes.
Like, when this thing is over, it is just over.
Zap, zap. I mean, it's like throw everything into the bug light and it's over. It's incredible how they just kind of give up. And I can't believe that that was the intent. Again, judging by what has already been written and created by this team, the fact that we're supposed to be finding bits and pieces of a book. We're told in this very long prologue that the evil people broke the book back up, right? That somehow you extract the blood into a vial and you got the bones somewhere else and you got the pages somewhere else. Why is all of the quest that we spend time on trying to find a horn? Like, what does that got to do with the book?
All of these D&D movies also have these subquests where to get our main goal, we have to achieve this side quest first. You know, in order for Justin Whalen to find the orb, he first had to find the eye or go through that maze and things. And so the horn is like a waypoint because the horn will lead them then to the book.
Yeah, but the whole movie is the horn, and then all of a sudden we're like, we got the book. It's back.
Right, I forgot about the book. But you're right, like, in the movie's logic, he was really just trying to band up with these people to go on the quest for the pages of the book and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He got sidetracked on the side quest and became the whole movie.
Yeah.
So let's just go past the prologue. Let's just assume we skip it. How much of this movie would even make sense if you took that away, or if that wasn't added in post-production to elongate this movie to a runtime that would be acceptable to SyFy Channel?
Yeah, I mean, despite it being too long, the opening isn't bad. It reminds me of the motion comics I used to watch that Marvel put out, because it's like still drawings that are then computer motion just a little bit. And so as far as prologues go, I've seen worse. At least this one was visually interesting and had a D&D feel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we have this prologue because it does set up the stakes of our MacGuffin of this film, the Book of Vile Darkness, that it caused 1,200 years of death. Now, it would have been nice if somewhere in all of this we ever heard the name Shathrax, because that's going to be the big bad we're dealing with, who shows up at the very end of this, and it's like, who is this guy with his lips stapled shut? But I guess the prologue's long enough that I don't need to know when Shathrax began his quest to reassemble the book.
Yeah, just to underline it, what we hear in the prologue is Nagrul, but Nagrul ain't in this movie as Shathrax.
Yeah, Nagrul's the one who died to make the book. The book is Nagrul's flesh. And then Shathrax is the big mastermind behind putting it together, we find out in the last 5 minutes of this film.
Right. A competent movie would have some flashback scenes, or we would be seeing him talk to Accordia, you know, at some point, showing us there's some connection between all of this. But yeah, no, he just pops up in the last scene and that's it.
So what I'm really saying is, as we begin to do what we do and break down a plot such as we can find it, I want to just recognize that even though I don't think these guys are skilled as storytellers, as proof of my review of their last effort, I do think they were hobbled. I do think that, unfortunately, they just weren't able to make the full movie they were set out to make. And so, yeah, very weird. It's one of the many things that make this Book of Vile Darkness feel different than Wrath of the Dragon God.
But then, yes, we do hop into modern day and we're seeing the Knights of the New Sun. And the prologue had told us that they've basically become lazy because good has ruled for 800 years. And so the God of Light is no longer giving them their special amulet powers.
And horny, right? I mean, they have to give up worldly pleasures. These guys are monks, right? They're not just knights. They go and pray to a giant phallus they call the obelisk. I guess there's a carved sun at the top of it. It looks like a big dick to me. And they have to give up all worldly pleasures and just be, quote, a beacon of light, which is just another way of saying no sex for you.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, we get a quick shot of them. I couldn't even tell you how many people were there. I mean, it was a group of them, 10, 15 maybe. But what we're supposed to take away from this is a father and son. It's a son who's ready to take on the trials or ask the obelisk for power. I don't even understand what's going on. He's touching his sword to this rock and disappointed that it didn't shoot lightning at him.
Pretty much, yeah.
They used to have a connection, a direct connection. It seems like the god of light is what gave them the magic power, hold it up, Castle of Grayskull shit, and they could vanquish the evil back in the day, and now they just look like nerds, right? We put on the costumes, we wear the amulet, we touch the big phallus, and nothing happens. We have no real power, and we're giving up all the worldly pleasure for no good reason. I don't know how father had son if he's given up worldly pleasure, and I also don't think that this actor looks old enough or anything like our main character. But yeah, it took me a beat to realize that this is a father trying to comfort a son and welcome him into this knightly order.
Yeah, it's not really made clear. I'll say now, I watched this movie twice. It's short. It wasn't a huge commitment. But the first time I watched it, I thought this guy was being inducted into the order, and when he didn't have Castle Grayskull light up his sword, I thought it was a fellow knight cheering him up. Even though he says, "My father said to me, words I'll now say to you," I didn't get that this was this guy's father. Like you say, they don't look that old. And so it wasn't driven home that this is a legacy thing, but our main guy, Grayson, does have main character syndrome, as he knows none of these Knights of the Sun, including his father, got this power from Pelos, but he thought he would be the one. He was good enough that if he went up there and touched his sword to the stone, he'd get the power. But they do look like silly cosplayers. All those background people look like grips that they were just given swords and told stand and hold it in front of you.
And this is my question, because it seems like Grayson, for most, all of the movie, is basically pushing back against this legacy. Once he does this ritual at the beginning and realizes it's a sham, it's like, he got to level 10 in Scientology and went, I don't want to do this no more. And it seems to be against it. Seems to want to, sell his amulet for the value of its gold and is running away from the oath that he just took.
Yeah, I mean, what happens is a group comes in, we barely see it, but all the knights are slaughtered, and Grayson and his father join the attack last, and when Grayson wakes up, everybody's dead. There's no order to be a part of anymore. Now he's no longer as interested in being a knight as he is in rescuing his father.
Right.
But how does he know that his father was taken? Did he see it? That's the part I kind of got lost on, is he wakes up and everybody's dead, but just because his father's corpse isn't there, he knows that he was taken?
I believe that is true. He looks around. He says, father, looks around. I don't know, all these extras. I don't know how you could tell one from the other. But he goes trudging off to a local village, finds a sex worker whose brother was also in the order. And again, there's a whole sexual tension about, take off your clothes. And he's like, nope, I got the amulet and all of that. But she knows. She does mention that he was taken by Shathrax. That is the first time we hear that name.
And this sex worker you talk about, I mean, Grayson doesn't know her. It's not like because her brother was a knight, she's a contact of his. He just wanders into the nearest town, sees a bunch of barbarians who I guess have just gangbanged this sex worker because they're all leaving it together at the same time. So he goes in to find out about them, and he's ready to sell his amulet. And she just is like, oh, my brother was a knight of the new sun. He died a pauper and alone. So
yeah,
it's not really a great career path to have that big amulet around your neck.
Right. They seem to be like a loser club, and now they're actually needed because out of nowhere, and no one can explain to me what they are, just some dudes with purple lightning shooting out of their fingers and eyes, killed a bunch of people. And I guess, they're spreading the evil? The book is being reassembled?
Were the knights protecting part of the book? Who knows?
We know that, or I don't know. I heard somebody say that Shathrax is sending out this group we're going to meet in this Green Dragon Inn bar, that they are the ones tasked with finding some element, again, the horn to get them the pages, to get them the book. They are feeling confident that now is the time to make a new book of vile darkness.
And we know the knights aren't hiding the book because we were told the knights tried to hunt it down and they were able to find the ink blood.
Right.
and they destroyed the ink. So if you're going to have this book, I guess they're still writing it. It's like the Bible. It goes from person to person and they keep writing new passages. So if they're going to write more in the book, they need new blood to do it. We'll get to that later. But the Knights don't know where the pages and cover are, but they figure they're just lost to time.
I'm going to stop and just give the briefest of compliments. I kind of like this as a concept. I do actually think it's darker, right? There's something a little bit more foreboding. There's something a little bit more sinister and kinky, and the morality is a little bit more gray. Certainly when we see the band of heroes, air quotes around that Grayson is going to align himself with, I mean, typically these are a colorful band of characters that we're all supposed to like, and they are all competing for worst human being on the planet.
Oh, I didn't think we were supposed to like them. I thought this was a group of villains that our character is embedding himself with.
You are correct. But in any other story that we've ever had, you see a bunch of colorful goofballs with different talents come together and we love them, is my point. And here it's a real shock to realize that they're all awful, vile people.
Yeah, our quest crew, you would think, would be our heroes with maybe one or two turncoats inside that you find out later they were actually working for somebody else the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But right off the bat, these guys are all just deplorable. I mean, for him to even get in with this group, they make him murder somebody in the tavern they're in just to prove that he's willing to go along with them.
Right.
However, he seems to skirt their rules, because what they say is, if you want to join us, you have to kill someone here without provocation in cold blood. But then one of these people tries to sneak up behind him and he sees him in a mirror. He kills them in self-defense, and they're like, all right, well, you killed someone. I'm like, wait a sec, that wasn't cold blood. That wasn't without provocation.
Mm-mm.
Right, because they want us to still like Grayson. Everyone else is morally gray, but he, I think, most of the time, until we get near the end, is a pretty good guy, right? Or at least this early on, yes. He killed an elf that, I think he took his seat, right? He sat down and the elf got indignant and was going to spear him for taking his seat. They were talking about how if he did join them, he would get 1/12 of the treasure because there's 6 of them and he's only half a person. Well, by killing the elf and showing that he's good with a sword, he's now owed 1/5 of their treasure and they're off to battle a dragon.
And I will agree with you, though, Stuart. I actually like this as a setup. I think it's much cleaner than the last 2 movies we've had. It's really simple. It's a quest to rescue my father, and to do this, I have to go in with bad people. I mean, this is almost a, dare I make an analogy, a Donnie Brasco type situation of somebody who goes in with bad people to undermine them and then starts to get seduced by the lifestyle he's being taken in by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a moral corruption that does happen. It's going to be in the form of their leader. We have this woman named Accordia who wears a amulet on a headband that allows her to make phone calls. She is constantly calling in and telling Lord Shathrax what they're doing, where they're going, that they're, killing a sufficient number of people along the way, that they're real jerks.
And this group, I like that they're colorful and very visually distinct. Last time we had people who, they did look very different. You had like this giant woman and then you had the other woman. But here, I really kind of liked the look of the 4 bad guys. As you mentioned, we have our Phantom of the Opera, Bez, who wears like this bone mask and is... I'm not really quite sure what he is in D&D lore, but he doesn't seem to have a lot of magic, but some magic.
Yeah, at one point he's referred to as Vermin Lord and takes great pleasure. I'll just go ahead and jump to the fact that his idea of entertainment is to pluck a ring off a corpse, bring it to the widow, make her put it on so she can see how her husband was brutally killed, and then comfort the orphaned child by touching his teddy bear and infecting it with all of these centipedes. He is plague and seems to be enjoying hurting innocent folk.
The thing I took away from that scene, though, Stuart, is that, like, I think in his heart, he was trying to prepare the child that he's now the man of the house, and he was ruining his teddy bear, saying it's time to grow up.
Ah.
You're now the one who's got to protect your mom.
Yeah, he talks about being the father. He's even going to imply that he should be Grayson's father. I didn't know how sincere that was. I don't understand any of these characters. He's going to actually play a pivotal role, baby, in the climax. We can hold on to that. But I agree, Bez is certainly one to watch.
And then I also like VMAC, who is in this whole body paint. He's this giant barbarian, and he just has a striking look to him that I wouldn't have expected so much body paint in such a cheap movie. I mean, in the 2000 movie where they overspent at the cheap budget of $30 million, sure. But here, I think he's a pretty badass looking dude, and he's kind of fun. He seems very jovial for a villainous barbarian.
That word fun, I don't know if I can use it here, but I hear what you're saying.
Out of all these characters, I feel like he might be the one that actually does have a moral center to him, right? The rest of them seem like they're playing a game, and anything they say to anybody should be taken with a grain of salt. But Vimac does feel like he might actually be true to his word.
Well, and keep in mind, Accordia is assembling all of these people. She's hiring them on. They're here for the treasure. We're going to find out what he wants to spend his treasure on, and it ain't good. But yeah, put a pin in that. VMAC is another one to watch.
And then we've got the boring one in my mind is Seath, who's this head tattooed assassin in armor. He doesn't really do a whole lot in this one, but he's muscle in the group.
A lot of monologuing. I feel like he wants to be on the stage. Like anytime anything bad happens, he will just be there for a long soliloquy about how evil is the right choice and is just always talking tough in almost a Shakespearean way.
And finally, the leader of the group, who I saved for last, Accordia, the only woman in this group. And yeah, she's a powerful sorceress and...
potential lover? Yeah.
Not that great an actress. She's, kind of wooden.
Yeah, the gambit of this movie is even though she is evil to the core and is always putting her mercenaries in place, she likes Grayson for reasons. Because he is innocent, because he is virginal, because she likes to corrupt. I'm just making wild stabs in the dark. I really don't see the chemistry develop in this movie, but it is, we'll find out, the central love affair.
Yeah, and you're right, it's not on screen. As a matter of fact, she seems to be repulsed by him, but is that a meet cute? I don't know.
Not cute, not in this movie. Yeah.
It just seems to be they're the two good-looking people on screen, so of course we got to put them together at some point.
Right. Anyway, they're all going into this cave to find a horn. This is, again, where I'm like, why can't we just make it simple? You're trying to get the bones for the book, or the ink for the book, or the flesh for the pages for the book. I feel like you're making it hard with a horn. Hard to follow.
Yeah, but I do somewhat enjoy what they're doing with this dragon scene. I mean, we get Bez using this eye thing, which is, the CGI in this, I'm not going to compliment it. I'm not going to say it's good or anything, but I've seen worse in the previous Dungeons and Dragons movies.
Yeah.
And so his floating eyeball going through this dragon cave is kind of fun. And then these swords come out of nowhere, these axes, like, again, another Raiders of the Lost Ark thing. I thought it cut off his eyeball, like the ocular nerve was severed, but he's able to retract the eyeball. It's just bloody.
Yeah, they make it seem like the optic nerve can go like 500 feet. And it is kind of cool that it's like sneaking around, but I don't understand his math. Earlier, they had talked about if the dragon ate 5 people, it'll be asleep for 5 hours or something like that. He's seeing the corpses. To me, that would mean the dragon hasn't eaten, but he thinks by seeing all these bodies, the dragon must be asleep, and then it's supposed to be a surprise when we have this dragon attack.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if he woke up the dragon and that's what happened, but yeah, the dragon comes on the attack, and again, not a great dragon, but not the worst dragon I've seen in the past few weeks.
Yeah, it's the best dragon we've seen so far, right? Like, it's a completely different model, it's got some texture to it rather than just being a gelatinous blob of shiny objects.
Yeah, this world is established by part 3. You kind of know what it's going for in terms of its production values. And so it is the dragon you deserve if you're sitting down for this movie. And Grayson is the only one willing to kind of stand his ground. The others kind of go into hiding. Bez has this trick where he can turn into a plague of flies. And I guess that allows him to scatter and not be a corporal form that can be targeted. But everyone else fails here except for our young knight.
And he's able to grab a ring from Accordia and cause a bunch of rocks to collapse and kill the dragon, but they think he died with it, which would make this movie very short. But no, he survived, and he's now the dragon slayer, and Bez is going to put a dragon tail around his neck so he can show everyone he's a dragon slayer. He's wearing a lot around his neck, because underneath his armor, he's got this big Flava Flav, like, medallion, and now on top of the armor he's got the dragon tail.
This is what I mean. What does he stand for? He's still wearing the amulet, but in the first scene, he was like, why do we wear these? And at one point was going to sell it for monetary value. Does he think he's still a knight of a new sun? Does he still believe in the things that he swore an oath to? I know he wants to get his father back, but is there anything else that he wants to keep alive from that order?
I think he is a truly noble person at his core, which is why every time this group of people wants to kill someone, he's going to jump in the middle and try to mediate. It's why he still wears the amulet, is he is trying to stay chaste. I mean, the dragon, it had 3 people alive, and the group wants to kill them, but Grayson's like, no, we can take them back to town and we'll be praised as heroes if we do that, and get better reward than just killing them. So he's saving their life. Then when he gets back in town, some hoochie mama's like, you're a dragon slayer, come bang me, and he's going to turn her down because I think he's still trying to be chaste and follow the rules of that order.
But is he doing it because he believes in the sun god? I don't think he does. He's doing it because he wants his dad to still be proud of him. And boy, did that relationship need a lot more work than that opening scene.
Yeah, his motivations are unclear, but what is clear is, like Arnie said, he is at least trying to act in a noble manner, right? He is trying to do the right thing.
Of all of these, he's the only one. Yes, everyone else is really despicable. Again, they're like, oh, you're right. We can take these people and convince the town to let us in so that we can then do bad things. You know, like, take your pick. Everyone here, I've already mentioned that Bez is tormenting widows by giving back the rings that will haunt their nightmares forever. The assassin is maybe the worst one. He is waiting in the shadows. They have a scepter. They bring back a scepter from the dragon cave, give it to the mayor of the town, and when one of the people is putting it away in their treasure trove, he sneaks in and slits the guy's throat.
Yeah, Grayson didn't realize, but the others had all planned on just robbing this town of every speck of gold that it has, and so they're doing that in the night, while Accordia is, I guess the word I'll use is seducing. It's kind of a broad term for what she does to Grayson, but in the end, he's basically forced to either reveal himself or sleep with her.
Yeah, I think he goes home with her because, again, that headband. She's talking to Shathrax. He knows his father is with Shathrax. When she's changing in the bathroom, he puts on that headband, and there's a brief moment where he can actually see his father has been chained up, and some minion is like, Lord Shathrax, what shall we do? And it just seems like his father is the vessel for this new book, that they're draining him of blood, that they're going to turn him into volume number 2 of the Vile Darkness novel.
Well, yeah, and this is our first clue or first hint that Grayson has any reason to believe his father is still alive and would be going on a quest to save him. So up to this point, I think he was just going along for the ride. Like, he felt like he needed to do something, but I'm not sure what that was.
I don't think he thought Accordia was hot. I don't see it. And again, she negs him into it, but he really doesn't like her.
And I found it funny because she is not a great actress. She also very clearly has a barbed wire tattoo on her right bicep that I think the makeup people tried to cover very poorly. Like, they just ran to Sephora to get some foundation and smear it on her arm to try to hide it, because why would this person in Dungeons and Dragons time have a Pamela Anderson tattoo?
Barbed wire? Not barbed wire?
Well, no, it's barbed wire, but...
Okay, all right, yeah. She's not sporting a Pam tat.
No, I was saying the same one that Pamela Anderson has.
Okay, fair. As if we've never covered that movie. I don't know how well that tattoo is identified with said star.
No, I noticed that too, Arnie, but I'm going to give the movie a little bit of credit here. I think that's a function of her ability to release her arm in a ghost fashion and send it, 50 yards away, that she does a few times.
Oh, so that was supposed to be scar tissue, not a bad tattoo cover. Okay.
I think so, right? Maybe it works as both, but,
Yeah, and she does fetishize scarring. I mean, later, he's going to nick her with his sword, and she's going to be like, oh, I hope it scars, or something like that. She's into that kink. And again, Clive Barker, S&M. This feels like a dirty Skinemax movie. It does not feel like the D&D movie of last time.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that this is the first D&D movie to exist in the same world as Game of Thrones at this point. I feel like, they watched a couple episodes out and like, oh, lots of titties, we're going to do that too.
Right. Good point. Yes, Game of Thrones would have been on, not when the second movie came out, but now, yes, this is their reference. This is what they're ripping off, and that's why we have this extended scene of Vimac. I heard no consent. It was like, oh, let me just grab this woman and head to the bathhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were all prostitutes because there's a lot of them and they all seem to be having a pretty good time. In fact, I dare say there's too many of them. There are so many that they're just like lounging around and giggling and have nothing to do. They're not doing anything with each other. They're just basically waiting for their turn with Vimac.
They're kind of rubbing each other.
Oh, they eventually writhe around on each other. They're having a nice little orgy.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's the best porn I've ever seen, but there was at least the titillation to get you thinking that, yes, this is really a hot bathhouse. And Vimac does pay for it. The next day, he does throw a gem at one of the women. I do think it was services paid. And he's got gems to burn because, again, they've stolen the town's treasure. The assassin has all the loot, and Accordia knows that. This was all a plan.
Of course, Grayson is going to try to talk out of it because the people of the town are ready to attack, and Grayson knows that this little band can take over this whole town. So he's like, why don't we just take half the treasure and walk away? And the mayor's good with that. But then Bez is going to kill the mayor anyway, and then they will have to slaughter the entire town.
Did that not make your head spin? Because I really thought, I believed in this moment. When the mayor says, okay, we'll let you take half of our treasure, that seems like a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it ain't good enough. Boom! He doesn't just die, he explodes. Fountain of blood. Again, I really thought, Suicide Squad. Sure, these are bad people, but we'll grow to like them in their scampy, rapscallion way. No, I hate these assholes. They have no morals, and this is a really bad crowd.
And yet I like them because they are that evil. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't feel like I'm in a formula film.
Agreed.
When we see the people who he's becoming friendly with, if not friends with, he never fully trusts them, but they're all going to slaughter everyone in this town, and he's left not knowing what to do. He pulls out his big amulet to stop somebody from killing him, and then that person gets killed from behind, and he's just going to go into the sewers to lead some children to safety.
My favorite scene. I gotta say, this actually made me genuinely laugh. He was like, kids, we're all gonna go into the forest. What's your favorite forest animal? Zombies! What about unicorns? Nah, that's for girls. Yeah, I love that.
Right. At this point, the movie's middling, right? If they're trying to get us to be on board with these over-the-top villainous characters, then they need to also put a little effort into making us believe how innocent and how worthy these townsfolk are of not being murdered, right? As it plays, it's just, they're people in this town, they're getting murdered, that's bad. Let's move on.
I agree, but middling is a step up from what we've gotten, so I'm kind of happy.
And do feel bad. I mean, Delgar, I did not know ye, but he was one of the sleeping corpses they found in the dragons thing. What a thing to be brought home and revived and say, these are the heroes, let us in, and then be speared by them. Again, it just really makes me hate these people when I was prepared for a formula story where I'd be asked to love them. And you're right, Arnie, it keeps me on my toes. Suddenly I'm like, what movie am I in? Where is this going? When the young guy, after he rescues the kid, is like looking at his clawed up body after sex and is trying to wash it all off, I'm thinking this is a tragedy. I actually predict this will be like him being the new evil lord at the end. I start to believe that this is about corruption and not redemption.
But I really want to know how he can wear, again, this clock-sized amulet under his armor and yet be seduced and have sex where he gets completely naked, as we see, because there's a little bit of nudity there, and Accordia never sees this amulet, and then they all go together after this big battle to some body of water where he's going to get naked again and bathe, and yet nobody sees this huge-ass amulet.
Yeah.
Or is going through his things as he's in the water, like a thief would do.
But here's the thing, I think Bez knows. Just to kind of jump to the end, Bez is playing his own game, and he has this really awkward moment where he's trying to make metaphor. He's like, you killed the dragon, I'm going to give you the tip of the tail. So yes, he's not only wearing the giant amulet, he's wearing a giant dragon tail on top of it. This man is being weighed down, but Bez knows. And he tells him this bizarre story about, do you ever know how to kill a raccoon? Well, apparently, you create a box with a hole that will get their paw caught in it, put an apple inside, and they can't resist the hold on to the apple knowing that a rock is about to roll on them and crush them. Bizarre. I can't imagine that that is a common scenario for extinguishing raccoons, but it's trying to imply that Bez is telling this man, you're the raccoon. You are trying to go after something and going to get stuck, and I'm going to crush you with the rock. So I think he knows. Again, the other ones are dumb, and they're self-interested, and they want to just divide up the treasure and go on their separate ways. They don't have an interest in Grayson, but Accordia does, because she wants him to be her boy. Yeah, he decides in this moment, the sex worker insisted when he went to the store and went on a shopping spree that he buy a vial of poison, I thought, to kill himself if things got bad, but he has other ideas. And this is another shocker scene.
Yeah, I also thought, because she buys him the poison and says, in case they make you talk. It looked like a lot of poison for a suicide to me. It was a big vial of poison.
Yeah, I know, right? Now for the whole town.
But here he's going over and talking to Vimac, and Vimac is saying, we're splitting up now, and he's going to go home and avenge his father. He's going to reclaim his title of the town by killing a lot of people.
Yeah, again, don't candy color this story where my family was killed in an avalanche. I survived and was cast out because the other villagers blamed me. We're so tough there. The barbarians have such a machismo that if you are stupid enough to be killed by an avalanche, you're not worthy of being one of us. So his big dream is to go back and kill everyone in a village. And I just think, oh, man, who's to like here?
Well, actually, that seems like on its own, completely isolated, that could be a hero's story of, coming back and getting back at the people who ousted him. It's not the most evil of these people. And the fact that Grayson decides to poison Vimac, I don't understand his motivation here. At what point did Grayson change and decide he wants to murder this group he's been hanging out with instead of just letting them part ways?
Right. If you have to pick one to murder just to get the others in the group to think that somebody betrayed them, he's the worst one to pick. Pick one of the other guys that actually is doing evil stuff. You watched Bez liquefy a mayor just minutes ago. Get him out of the picture if you're going to do this.
I'm fine with anybody being given the poison. All of them. Toast to you guys. This whole Shathrak's crew, to me, feels worthy of 3 glasses of that poisoning agent.
Well, Grayson also has a magic body bag, right? He can shove the entire corpse into this little satchel that magically shrinks him down so he can drop it in the water.
Right.
Oh, that's a bag of holding. That is a very well-known Dungeons & Dragons thing because it allows you to carry so much more than you could ever possibly carry in one small bag. I mean, you think about every video game you've ever played where you have this giant inventory of stuff that somehow you're carrying. Dungeons & Dragons has all written that away into this bag of holding, and so he's able to take the bag and put Vimac and all of Vimac's treasure into the bag together so that he can throw it into the lake, and people just think Vimac ran off.
Yeah, but you know what? If you got a bag like that, put that goddamn amulet in there. Put that dragon tail in there. You are carrying too much stuff.
The big-ass sword that he's lugging around that's twice his size. Yeah, if you got a magic bag, use it wisely.
So again, I'm trying to figure out, what is this movie now? Okay, so this is about a guy, this is vengeance. This is Charles Bronson. This is me saying, I hate this gang and I'm going to secretly go around and whack them all. But he doesn't take out Seath. Seath is the assassin and actually has Grayson at a disadvantage. When Seath decides that he wants to get the horn away from Accordia, he thinks her weakness is that she loves this guy, and so he threatens to kill him, and it's only because of Bez, right? That he has a scorpion in his hand.
I think Bez can just make scorpions happen. But yeah, again, this is very weird to me because we just killed Vimac and now the assassin, Seath, has betrayed them and he's killed. So this group of 5 became a group of 3 in the matter of 5 minutes. I don't see a reason for this in Grayson's motivation, and I don't see why the movie had to write them off this way unless they were just looking to up a body count.
Yeah, I mean, the movie's trying to tell us that Grayson's motivation here is to get them back onto the original plan, onto the original quest of going after the parts of this book, right? That's what they decide to do now that the treasure that they just stole is gone.
Okay, I'm barely following that. I thought he was acting like a knight of a new sun and vanquishing darkness, and that he saw that as part of his mission to make sure that everyone that works for Lord Shathrax doesn't walk away rewarded. But again, he doesn't kill this guy, and it's kind of ironic because when Seath killed the townsperson putting away the scepter, he made a whole big deal about how the strong prey on the weak without mercy or remorse. How funny that he dies begging for mercy, begging for Accordia to give him a antidote to the scorpion tail that he has just taken. But I guess you're right. Now they have to... Why do they have to go get a book?
Well, that was their whole mission for Shathrax, is to get the book. So they have the horn will lead them to the book, and that book is guarded by, actually, my favorite thing in this entire movie is this creepy little girl. Yes, the CGI is not photoreal, but she has this like PlayStation 3 creepy quality to her, and it does look like something that might freak me out if I was playing Silent Hill at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it had a very Silent Hill feel to it, didn't it? With the crazy mouth and her weird eyes and just her body not being right proportions. Like you said, it's not great CGI, but it's above what we've seen in the past in the series.
Yeah, and it just is unexpected and dark in ways that maybe I should be expecting at this point. But yeah, that this little evil ghoul girl lets you pass by sucking on your finger, and you have to be, in an interesting twist, she likes the taste of evil, so you better have some goodness in you. She takes Bez and is like, more, more, more. She tastes Grayson, and she's like, you got some of what I like in you. But she tastes Accordia and goes, ooh, you're in love. So she's kind of a softie. We've now exposed the evil sorceress woman as someone that has the potential to love. And I ask you, do we love her? Do we want her to end up with Grayson?
I found that to be really interesting, that we have seen a change, that Grayson has become evil enough for this little creepy girl through his actions, and Bez is going to even say it's because you killed Vimac. Bez knows what happened, and meanwhile, Accordia is becoming more pure through her attraction to Grayson. I don't really want to see these two together because there's no chemistry between Accordia and anybody on screen at any given moment, but I find this an interesting character twist for them.
Yeah, again, it's keeping me on my toes. If I can't expect to like this movie, I can at least be grateful that I can't anticipate every step of this journey. I really don't know where they're going. And again, my prediction is Grayson is only going to get worse and worse, that there is no redemption for him when they walk into the climax of this film and meet Lord Shathrax, who apparently didn't get the memo that this wasn't Hellraiser 9.
Yeah, Bez got stabbed. They were fighting after the little girl because Accordia wasn't evil enough. Then this helmed horror comes out. It's this red glowy thing and they have to fight it and it's going to apparently kill Bez. And it's not a bad CGI fight. This feels like they're working within the constraints of their budget. Instead of saying we have to have a dragon, they're saying what can we make that looks somewhat cool with the 50 cents they've budgeted for this scene. And so this red glowy sword fight works. And also during the scene, I'm really coming to notice the score and thinking this film has good music. It turns out this is scored by the Newton brothers. This is one of their early films. They do most of Mike Flanagan's stuff. They did Gerald's Game. We talked about them just a couple weeks ago with Ouija 2, and they did Oculus and a whole lot of movies these days. This is one of their early works, and it has good music because of it.
Yeah, like you said, this is a good effect, with this night that, where any of his body would be showing is like a specter of red vapor and whatnot, and he puts up a pretty good fight. But what confused me a little bit is he can be killed just like a man. Like, they end up defeating him by stabbing him. And it's like, but he's mist. He's a smoke. How did that work?
It's all a ruse anyway, because Bez isn't really dead, and Bez is contriving all of this to happen. I guess I'm a little confused about what happens next. They suddenly have a part of the book. I'm not even sure what part.
Yeah, they have the cover, which they got when they killed the red dude, but I never saw them get it. Like, I never saw them pick it up. They just killed the red dude and then go off to see Shathrax and say, here it is.
Yeah, like Spawn, like in a video game, you kill the enemy and boom, a gold coin appears.
And yeah, nobody told this guy that he wasn't in Hellraiser 9, right? With the stapled lips and the concubine women that are going to do the talking for him. He is totally ready for Clive Barker night at the S&M Club.
Yeah. And one other thing that I'm noticing around this point in the movie, though, I credited the music, but the sound mix of this is terrible. Every time they try to have any kind of sound effects or clanging swords, or when they get to Shathrax, there's a lot of like mechanical sounds in the background and things. All of this is way too loud. Like, it's just overdone sound effects going on here. And it's made worse because Shathrax has his lips stapled shut, but he's speaking telepathically through two women who are attached to him who try to do the same movements he does. He's now holding the Book of Vile Darkness. Who knows where he got the pages? I guess that was never told, but he has the pages, and the women are kind of keeping their arms equally apart, like they're holding the book, but very poorly.
I think it's a cool image to have these, two women sort of being the mouthpiece for the evil dude. It works. Again, there's some kind of kink to him, and he's like welcoming them to the shadow realm where you don't have to be embarrassed about living your darkest desires. Again, how is this going to end? We see that Grayson sneaks off to unchain his father and make a break that doesn't go anywhere. They end up at a window looking out and seeing that they're floating on a rock in outer space. Like, there's nowhere for them to go. So, yeah. It seems to me like Grayson is doomed. That when they chain him up here and suck out liquid pain, I think is how it's described, that he is going to become the new book. It was a total surprise that there is a happier ending.
And yeah, this is where Bez returns to let us know that he wasn't actually dead, and he's actually part of this cabal, right? He's leading the soldiers in to capture the two of them after they make their momentary escape.
And this is really a weird moment for me in this movie because they've been torturing Grayson's father. And they say he's the new blood. They're like drawing the blood out of Grayson's dad to write in this new Book of Vile Darkness. But then what they say is, oh, we actually never wanted his blood.
Right.
It's Grayson who's pure. We took him just as bait to bring Grayson here. They could have just taken Grayson. He was unconscious on the ground.
Yeah.
But they could have just taken Grayson.
Yeah, I feel like they wanted to have like a Darth Vader, I am your father twist here. Like a lot was made about the fact that Bez is like, I'm a better father to him than you are, and slapping the old man around and all of that. But it's not a good twist that the guy that spreads bugs and disease and has been torturing people the whole movie is like the big bad, right? Duh, right? Oh, how surprising that the Phantom of the Opera is the bad guy. It would have been a better twist if the father, right? If you had actually had the man playing the father being like, ha, I'm not really chained up. I'm waiting for you so I can chain you up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a twist. This is not a twist.
No, this is the last 3 pages of the book, and it's due tomorrow, so we're just kind of quickly finishing it off.
Mm-hmm. The screenplay, yes. The book, I don't know how many pages there will be, but hopefully we're done after this installment.
Yeah, so because Grayson doesn't want to commit suicide, he is now given the power from the god Pelos that he had wanted from the very beginning.
I guess. Provided by Accordia, right?
No, I thought it was just provided through that amulet. It starts to glow under his armor.
But I thought she gave it to him. She did some magic thing. She assists in some way in this moment so that he can do more than be milked.
Yeah, she throws him the amulet.
Well, no, he gets the power before he's captured again, which is confusing to me.
Oh, he does?
When he's with his father and saying, no, I'm not going to kill myself, then all of a sudden under his chest armor just starts glowing. And then he gets captured.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I missed this detail. All right.
Because it's all whip bang. It's boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, right. Because this would normally take 10 minutes in a movie, and instead it's like, yeah, folks, we got about 3 minutes to wrap this all up. So he's chained up, he's moaning.
They took the amulet from him, and that is what Accordia returns to him in this climax. She uses that my arms can detach power.
Right.
And returns the amulet.
Absolutely, yeah. She felt betrayed too. It should be said that when Bez is making his big move, the quote-unquote twist, she's like, I can't believe you tricked me into this. So, again, she wants to work with Grayson. She wants Grayson. And so she gives him the amulet so they can just zap everybody. And it's just the 3 of them now. Father, son, and holy bitch.
And I rewound to watch this because I'm like, what happened to Bez? We saw Bez came back. So what happened? We see Bez get blasted with one of these bolts of light coming out of Grayson's amulet, but we don't really get a glory death of our most traitorous character.
Because there's talking sequel here, right? Because this all ends on a tease of Accordia being like, you could come off to me and we could choke them all with our legend. Again, the S&M language here. Yeah, choke them all.
Mm-hmm.
Just go and live a debaucherous life. And it seems like in this moment, Grayson is going to go back with his father to the order, sexless, noble, praying to the phallus rock. And the question remains whether he will kill her the next time he sees her. A sequel we don't probably think we'll ever get, right? It's been 10 years, 12, 15.
I'm sure that that ship has long since sailed, given that they've already rebooted this, but kind of a cool ending to the series is that will they be enemies or will they be lovers? But he has to be chaste, so that's why he sends her away.
Mm-hmm.
And then the credits roll. I mean, it's like, I can't sleep with you. She's like, okay, I don't know what happened to his dad or anything like that. It's just, we're out of money. We're done.
He's still there. Yeah, no, I think he's going with his dad. I think that you see the dad in the background. I think. Not 100 on it.
I mean, we're not even sure how they get down from the floating rock city.
Right, yeah. Not sure about a lot. Again, if the goal was to do something different than what we had before, mission accomplished.
So Justin, Stuart, do you recommend Dungeons & Dragons, The Book of Vile Darkness? Justin.
This is a weird one, right? I mean, it's definitely a shift in tone from the previous 2 installments. And it's also a shift away from any string of narrative that those 2 might have had. The first 2 weren't really all that connected, except for the one character that was doing something 1,000 years later. The stories otherwise were not intertwined. So this one not being directly tied to those 2 doesn't necessarily make it feel like it's out of the realm. But I do appreciate that they tried to come in here with a darker tone and tried to explore some different themes than the other movies did. But the problem is they either didn't have the know-how, the will, or the budget to get there. There are some moments in this movie that are like, oh, okay, I can see what you're doing. And if they had the budget of a modern day Netflix series and had like a 10 episode run of this, they might have been able to go someplace with this and do something worth watching and worth recommending. But as it is, this is just, I don't know, what did you say, 87 minutes of, it feels like filler at some point, and it feels like there's way too much talking about stuff that I'm not even sure what's going on. There's a lot of lore babble again. But like I said, I appreciate the tone they tried to take, but to me, it's just not enough to push it over the top for even like a fun recommend. I would feel weird not recommending part 2 because it was so messy and then recommending this one. So I can't recommend this even in a Brown Arrow fashion. So yeah, if you're following this trilogy and you just feel like you got to wrap it up, I don't know if this accomplishes that, but you can at least say you saw all 3 of them.
Stuart.
Yeah, I don't think a recommend was in the cards, or, you couldn't roll the dice, the 100-sided dice, and get that outcome. Again, all of these D&D movies have been bad, right? And precipitously falling. From Mazes to Monsters, to Jeremy Irons and Thorazine Birch, to what we had with the Dragon God, I was expecting the very worst, right? That's the way we're going. How much more punishment do we get? But actually, ironically, by leaning into the S&M, by actually daring to not be formulaic and sort of cliche in its portrayal of heroism and, fantasy movies, we get this weird story about a virgin going into this dark land. If you have any kind of love for Skinamax in the 90s, if you wanted a Hellraiser sequel, if you're nostalgic, I never thought I'd be nostalgic for those straight-to-tape Hellraiser sequels, but if you wanted another one, I guess this one's pretty close. And I will just give it this compliment. I think it is the most entertaining Dungeons & Dragons movie, competing with Tom Hanks. Hard to say, but it's not enough for a recommend. Absolutely not. I don't want to give people the impression that this is worthy of their time. I had to see all of these movies, and this was the best time I had, but it sucked.
When I rolled my D20 on this movie, I figured I was about to fail my saving throw against cinematic poison. Given the last film's disastrous campaign and this one's near invisible release, I expected an experience as cursed as Alone in the Dark 2, a true natural one. Yet, against all odds, this forgotten relic with a party of complete unknowns managed to avoid total disaster. The plot follows a simple dungeon crawl, nothing too convoluted, and the adventuring party is small enough to keep track of while still having some distinct character classes, and a couple of them, namely Bez, the roguish trickster, and VMAC, the mighty tank, even bring a little fun to the screen. The Newton Brothers score is another boon to the quest, adding some inspiration points, especially during that battle with the Helmed Horror, one of the film's better encounters. So all things considered, this isn't a TPK. Total party kill for those who aren't D&D versed. In fact, I would argue this is the best of the Dungeons & Dragons movies so far.
Oh yeah, I'm in your camp. I agree with that.
I even double-checked my perception roll by watching it twice. The first time I watched it was a normal now playing watch. I'm taking my notes, I'm going through it, but I'm just feeling like I'm going to a dentist appointment. And then I walked out like, did this movie really not suck? So I watched it again the second day before I came on this podcast, and no, it didn't totally suck.
It still kind of sucked.
But let's not pretend this was an epic tier loot drop. I said it's not half bad, but there's still plenty of bad here. The CGI, while an upgrade from the previous crit fails, is still nowhere near spellbinding. The cinematography is serviceable at best. This is an ugly-looking, flat, colorless movie. The acting is as uninspired as a DM reading boxed text in monotone. The sound mix at times feels like it failed a concentration check. And our main hero, Grayson, is as bland as a first-level human fighter with no feats. He's carried by the more colorful adventurers around him, but it's hard to root for a protagonist whose defining trait is generically good. The ending rushes in like a teleport spell gone wrong, and Bez's fate is left frustratingly unclear. Was he KO'd, resurrected, written out of existence, not available the day they filmed it? So, in the end, the die roll is still a fail, but not a critical one. It's a weak not recommend, but I might be giving it a small bonus modifier simply due to my low expectations.
You are. Yeah, we're all pleasantly surprised that it didn't kill us, because that was how lethal this series was getting. But before we get into Honor Among Thieves, the movie that I've been waiting to talk about, I've been holding on to through all of these bad films, should just be said, a listener has brought to our attention that, unfortunately, guys, we're missing a Dungeons & Dragons movie in our retrospective. There's something called Dragonlance Dragons of Autumn Twilight, which sounds like a title generated by AI trying to write a YA novel, right? But yes, Dragons of Autumn Twilight is apparently a huge novel and D&D. Did you guys know that Dragonlance and D&D are the same thing?
No idea.
I honestly don't even know if I've heard of Dragon's Lance.
I'm sure you have, because you have been inside a comic book store. And throughout the 80s and 90s, I do remember. Here's the problem. When I see a dragon on the cover of something, it has like a repellent quality. Like I move away to not find out more. I'm like, okay, not for me. But you couldn't avoid this. Dragonlance was plastered all over everything. Calendars, board games, role-playing games. It was essentially modules for D&D that were meant to bring the dragons back. I guess TSR was feeling like its brand was flagging in the mid-80s, and some of the fanboys pointed out it was because you're all dungeon, no dragon, and so they created a module that was heavy on dragons, and it was a huge hit. It actually became sort of the defining second wave of TSR Dungeons & Dragons merchandise and games for another good decade. And yes, they have everything from comic books and video games to figurines to, unfortunately, a non-theatrically released 2008 animated film with the unmistakable subtitle of A Dungeons & Dragons Adventure Tale. Now, we're not covering it because we skip a lot of animated movies. If we didn't, our Marvel and DC retrospectives would probably be hundreds of extra episodes long.
Mm-hmm.
There are always those animated films that we just kind of go, yeah, maybe someone wants to watch that, but if it's not put out in theaters, it's not real. This definitely would not be put out in theaters. It is horrible. I'm assuming you guys don't know anything that what I'm talking about.
Nope, this is all Elvish to me.
All right, if only. I mean, again, it has the template. We all know what a D&D campaign is, right? You put a Gandalf wizard and a half-elf hero and some knights and magic users and some, pixie little thief or something. You get all these different classes together on some campaign. And as the title would suggest, there's this blue sword that has the ability to kill dragons. They got, I suppose, real people to do the voices. If you consider Keith Sutherland, Lucy Lawless, Michelle Trachtenberg, R.I.P., are all involved in this production. It's 90 minutes. It's a feature length, but it was put out straight to tape. The weird thing is, it's 2008, but it looks like that cartoon from the 80s, the one that we already praised, that really stilted, cel-drawn animation that aspires to be adult. There are boob shots, ass shots. There's a bar winch that is really giving you something or trying to. There is blood that comes out of nostrils and slit throats, but it is so poorly done. And I think that maybe the most challenging part of all of it is they try to make the dragons all 3D CGI rendering, and then everything else is the poorly drawn 2D cell rendering, and it doesn't feel like anyone's in the same space at all. It feels like you're watching two different movies laid on top of each other. Just everyone is shadowboxing. It's just a terrible... I can see why you might want to like the story. I did audiobook the story. The novel has lots of juicy bits. The animators leave out much of that book because they can't afford to animate it. And so what you're left with is a very sad thing. You can find on YouTube if you care. The people that leave comments will assure you that it is Brown Arrow fun. If you like bad animation, I just found it torturous. I really thought it was horrendous. But if we do cover Dungeons & Dragons again, I know we're going to next week with the big Hollywood movie, but there is a lot of love for Dragonlance, and some will tell you that will probably be the way it comes back as a feature film.
You kind of answered the question that arose to me, which is there a good enough story there, given a better budget, that it might have been something worthwhile?
It was supposed to be live action, and then, 2000, you saw what that 2000 movie looked like, so I can't even imagine after the 2005 SyFy Channel and now this movie, you wouldn't have wanted to see that story. It's just got a lot of dragons. I don't know, if that's your fetish, if you like to see dragons dressed up in suits of armor, spitting out acid, flying around with half-naked women sometimes riding them, it's everything that people seem to love when they pick up those books with those covers that I don't want it. Some people do.
But what I do want is to return to live action and an actual budget movie. Something that's gone to theaters. I mean, the one you're talking about didn't go to theaters. Vile Darkness didn't go to theaters.
It didn't even come to America.
But next week's film is actually a theatrical film, if not a theatrical success.
I've been holding on because I have seen Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, and I knew that there was a light at the end of this tunnel. It will not shock you. I will just die on the hill saying the best D&D movie is still to come. Pretty small hill, but I'll say that. It wasn't a big hit here in America, but I think, God knows, it's a step up. God knows, after everything we've seen, I'm really excited to return to this one. I have positive memories.
Yeah, I look forward to watching that one. I've been interested in it since it came out and just never got around to watching it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we saved the best for last.
I'm ready to watch Guardians of the Dungeon Crawling.
Yeah. We've saved the best for last, and this Friday we're also ending our hacker series. We're at the very last installment of that 8-part look at how hackers and computer coding and all of that stuff has been portrayed by Hollywood. We've gone probably with the most real-world serious of them all. Snowden. Looking forward to that movie. I did see it. Oliver Stone, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. A lot to chew on there. I hope you can join us for the whole series. It's been a wild ride.
That will be available for gold level donors. Get all of our hacker movie reviews, war games, hackers, sneakers, antitrust, swordfish, all for a donation of $25 or more. That helps keep Now Playing on the air. So thank you for your support. Thank you for listening to Now Playing. Justin Stuart, thank you for joining me. And now it's time to pick up the pieces and go home.
And so, we played the game again, for one last time. It didn't matter that there were no maps, or dice, or no monsters. Pardew saw the monsters. We did not. We saw nothing but the death of hope, and the loss of our friend. And so we played the game until the sun began to set, and all the monsters were dead.
Thank you for listening to this Now Playing Podcast movie review.
I've enjoyed our little chat, but now it's your time to die.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
A wonderful performance.
Help us spread the word about this show by leaving a 5-star review on Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, or your podcast store of choice.
This I give you now, trusting that you'll protect it with your very life.
Want more reviews like this one? In the archives section of NowPlayingPodcast.com, you'll find more than 1,000 in-depth movie reviews from our panel of hosts.
Welcome to the Adventurer's Vault.
On our site, you can hear reviews for every installment in the world's biggest film franchises, including the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars, Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men, James Bond, Middle-earth, Jurassic Park, Fast and Furious, and Transformers.
Are you listening to me?
All I do is listen.
Plus, we have individual movie reviews, such as Titanic, E.T., Inception, Big Hero 6, Ready Player One, Pulp Fiction, Apocalypse Now, Dr. Strangelove, and hundreds more.
Has anyone ever finished it before?
No. They all died trying.
And come back to NowPlayingPodcast.com next Tuesday for another all-new movie review podcast.
Nothing can keep me from it.
Support from listeners like you keeps Now Playing Podcast on the air.
Give me some food and I'll give you a prize.
You can donate directly by tapping the support button at nowplayingpodcast.com.
We are you gotta get. And right about now, we gotta get paid.
And you can join our crowdfunding campaign for early access to new episodes, exclusive reviews, and bonus reviews available for a one-time contribution.
This isn't about gold, it's about saving our empire.
Need more Now Playing? Subscribe to our In Focus weekly newsletter for exclusive digital download giveaways, celebrity interviews, behind-the-scenes insights, and more. Sign up through the subscribe page on our website and get it delivered to your inbox every Friday.
If you wish to join the others in death, insert your name below and I will notify your kin.
You can also compare notes with us on Letterboxd. Go to letterboxd.com/nowplaying.
You may take my hand, and I will lead you. I'll tell you right now, I'm not taking his hand.
And follow Now Playing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel.
Follow me, I know the way.
Now Playing Podcast is produced by Arnie Carvalho.
Giving birth to this nightmare is my most coveted dream.
Associate produced by Jason Latham.
I'm a god and a lord. I am really doing all right.
Now Playing is edited by Santiago and Arnie.
So we're the cleaning crew.
Cleanup crew's more like it.
Now Playing credits read by Brock.
You will speak only when spoken to.
Speak when spoken to, my ass.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual hosts and may not reflect the views of Venganza Media Incorporated.
A lot of dwarves are afraid to show their true feelings. I'm not, okay?
Venganza Media Incorporated is not affiliated with, and this podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by any entity that created the film analyzed herein.
You may have forsworn your oath, but your oath hasn't forsworn you. Just because that sentence is symmetrical doesn't make it not nonsense.
All movie clips and music included in this podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. They are included here for the purpose of review and no infringement is intended.
Yeah, well, have you ever heard of honor amongst thieves? We might live outside the law, but we respect each other.
Now Playing Podcast is an exclusive trademark of and may not be used without the express written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated.
The dark will never triumph, as long as the light inside me prevails.
Now Playing is a Venganza Media production, copyright 2025, and no part of this show may be reproduced, repurposed, or redistributed without the written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated. All rights reserved.
The most frightening monsters are the ones that exist in our minds.